He's actually a watch Bob. Bro, you got shit big.
Hey, can I have that?
Stop. Okay, then you need to try to. Yeah.
Oh no. All right. You got lost.
See you, Blake? Okay, thank you. And then go take your backpack
Keep the aisle clear.
There we go. They shouldn't put these seats in the.
You'll probably want to stand. Yeah,
LaCarter, right here. You are in your assigned seat.
Let's go to the lights or just the stage.
Are you lost? Who was your teacher? Over there. Go get off your skinny golf.
By the way,
Quickly before it starts.
it already started.
It is my honor to welcome everyone here today to the 5th Annual Distinguished Alumni Ceremony. I'm Ryan Bonsack, the high school principal. Each year, graduates are nominated and apply to a committee of staff, community, and student representatives. After reviewing the applicants, a voting process identifies the top candidates who are then inducted into the Distinguished Alumni. Our class of 2022 Distinguished Alumni inductees are Heidi Might, Craig Janssen, and Terry Edwards. The purpose of the program today is to demonstrate a connection between being a student at Dodgeville High School and achievement beyond graduation, promote perseverance through personal barriers and obstacles in life, and to honor alumni as they have both thrived and served in a larger community. We will be celebrating the achievements today of both Heidi Might and Craig Janssen. Terry Edwards will not be able to join us today as we will postpone his award ceremony to next year. It is my pleasure, and with much anticipation, I would like to introduce Anastasia Glonick to welcome our first inductee.
Heidi Might has spent her life pursuing her passions of sciences and languages. After earning the recognition of Valedictorian for the class of 1992, she went on to pursue completing her bachelor's at UW-Stevens Point with a double major in biology and Spanish, along with a minor in chemistry. She then earned her PhD in 2004 at the University of Texas at Austin, and later a postdoctoral fellowship in 2006. Heidi then went on to work at New Zealand's National Museum in Wellington and later became the curator of botany. After traveling and studying throughout South America, Heidi now conducts plant research in New Zealand. Among Heidi's accomplishments, she has named and described several new species and subspecies of plants while supervising the work of graduate level students. Please join me in welcoming Heidi Might.
Buenos dias, guten Morgen, kia ora. Hello from Wellington, New Zealand. My name is Heidi Might, and although I'm watching this ceremony virtually today, I'm pre-recording this talk just to be on the safe side. I'd like to tell you about some of the important experiences I had at Dodgeville High School and show you some photos of some of the research that I do in New Zealand. I'll start by telling you that my brother Rob Might and I grew up surrounded by our extended family, about 15 minutes drive from Johnston. We lived on a dairy farm our entire childhoods until we finished high school. My love of the outdoors and biology definitely had its roots in my childhood, which was mostly spent outside. Just like my grandpa, my dad, my aunts and uncles and cousins, I attended Dodgeville High School. I was there from 1988 to 1992, and my experience was very positive. For a relatively small school in a small town, I feel that DHS offered us students quite a range of class options and extracurricular activities. We were not locked into specializing in sports or music, science or the arts. I was able to play multiple sports, participate in band, choir, the school musical, public speaking, Spanish club, and save the rainforest. I needed to learn to manage my time, balance schoolwork with other activities, cooperate with a variety of people, and work hard. DHS also provided many leadership opportunities. For me, this meant having roles as team captain in multiple sports and taking on more responsibilities in Save the Rainforest, such as representing the organization at a conference and hearings at the US Senate in Washington, D.C., with Al Gore in attendance. Such roles showed me that being a leader comes with both accountability and rewards, and gave me the self-confidence to stand up and be my own authentic and unique self. Probably the main people that influenced me in terms of deciding what I wanted to study after high school were my teachers. In particular, my high school science teachers, Mr. Bruce Calhoun, Mr. Gary Walls, and Mr. Jack Harrison, and my high school Spanish teacher, Ms. Kathy Lorpinski. When I was 13 years old, and in his year 9 science class, Mr. Calhoun started what is now an international educational and conservation group called Save the Rainforest. I was one of the founding student members. During my last 2 years of high school, I was able to go on 2 different Save the Rainforest international trips for high school students and teachers, one to Belize and one to Ecuador. For me personally, these trips were life-changing. First, I experienced the rainforest with local scientists, indigenous people, and conservationists who taught me about the biology and the issues surrounding tropical rainforests. This was the first time I had seen biologists doing actual field research, and I could walk alongside them, helping and learning about plants and animals myself. Second, we stayed in research huts in nature reserves and met other students and teachers who were as passionate as I was. It was the first time I was in another country without my parents doing something that I loved. Finally, another light bulb moment was seeing that I could pursue a career that combined two of my passions, biology and Spanish. This is probably the first photo of me doing my first scientific observations and research when I was 17 years old in Ecuador. Here is the Dhs Class of 1992, during winter of our last year of high school. We had about 80 students in our class. By the time I was a senior and in this photo, I knew I wanted to go to university and study science, just like my parents, Joe and June Mike, had done. In Dodgeville, the only people who knew about science or had science degrees at the time had practical jobs like farmer, like my dad, veterinarians, doctors, nurses, like my mom, pharmacists, like my brother Rob and his wife Jen now, high school science teachers, like my wonderful science teachers I've already mentioned, or your wonderful science teacher, Ms. Carrie Rowe Wosley. More about her later. Now, these are all great science jobs, but I just didn't feel like they were for me. The fact that I was able to take high school classes in science and languages really benefited me and prepared me for university and beyond. Because I didn't have to choose one set path, I could have the best of both worlds. My hard work at high school paid off, and almost 30 years ago to the day today, I was giving the valedictorian speech at our class of 92 graduation ceremony. The upshot of this was that I was able to continue as a double major in biology and Spanish at college. Later, I completed a PhD in botany, for which I used both my science and my language skills to do field work in Chile, Argentina, Peru, Tasmania, and New Zealand. My career path has evolved over the last 30 years and has taken me to many other states and countries. I have lived, studied, and worked 6 years in Texas, 2 different half years in Chile, 2 years in Germany, and 16 years and counting in New Zealand. Languages are still a big part of my life, and in our home, we speak Spanish or German as our main family languages, depending on the day of the week that it is. Since 2004, my family and I have lived in New Zealand. I'm a botany curator at the National Museum in Wellington, where I do botanical research and outreach. Because some of the plants I study are rare or endangered, my research has important conservation implications. I also co-supervise university students and support and mentor them in their own botanical research projects. Now, I did a bit of research for this talk, and here are some cool facts about native plants in Wisconsin versus native plants in New Zealand. Wisconsin, for example, has about 2,400 native plant species, but few of these are rare or threatened, and there are hardly any left to describe. This means the flora in Wisconsin is common and well-known scientifically. Now compare that to New Zealand, where we have a similar number of native plant species, but about half of these are rare or endangered, and scientists estimate there are still about 300 additional plant species that are likely to be totally new species. Although I love the plants in both places, I have to say, New Zealand is definitely an exciting place to be a botanist. So I'm now a scientist, a botanist, who does botanical research on some of these rare species that we know very little about. My research aims to answer the following questions about native plants, and in particular, New Zealand native forget-me-nots. How many species are there? How can they be distinguished from one another? Where do they grow? Are they endangered? Should they be protected? There are many aspects to my botanical research, but probably the best part is going out into the field to make new research collections and observe the plants in their native habitat. This often means heading into the beautiful mountains of New Zealand. Being curious about the world around you is probably the most important quality you can have as a scientist. Here I am using a hand lens to look at an unnamed species of forget-me-not in New Zealand. This is a potential new species, not yet known to science. To get to some of these really isolated places, we sometimes use helicopters, which are a very efficient way to get to difficult to reach sites, but they're also very expensive. So more often we use four-wheel drive vehicles, and we also do a lot of backcountry hiking. I have to be constantly learning to do my job. Many skills are needed to be able to do field work safely, including physical fitness, ability to read maps, to use a compass, to hike where there are no hiking trails, identify plants, communicate, organize, do teamwork, first aid training, off-road driving, and outdoor survival skills. When we're in the field, we stay in backcountry huts, or we camp in tents where there's often no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no showers, and many times no toilets. I often work with other people, including students and other botanists, to find and collect plant specimens for our research. We learn from each other, and it's also important that we support each other in the field and work as a team. The weather is often very unpredictable. This photo was taken in the middle of summer in New Zealand, but in the mountains, it can snow at any time, so we botanists have to be prepared. When we're out in the field, we use information from previous collections that other botanists have made, and we gain skills over time to know and understand exactly where the plants are most likely to be found, and hopefully, we will find them. When we do find rare plants in the field, we botanists, aka plant nerds, get very excited. Here you can see us at a coastal site in the North Island, with the Pacific Ocean just behind us. We have just found a population of the smallest forget-me-not in the world, and we're pretty excited. Each year I do about 2 to 3 weeks of field work, and this map shows all the sites I've done field work in New Zealand over the last decade or so. We have special permits to collect rare plants, and we only take small samples, enough for our research purposes. At night in the field, we press the plants to make herbarium specimens. Here you can see a plant that we found in the field, and it's now preserved as a research specimen. And this is what I'm currently studying. This plant too might be a new species. We have over 300,000 such plant specimens in our museum herbarium. They're stored in special folders and boxes, arranged systematically in these compactor shelves in a room controlled for temperature and humidity. Some of our specimens are over 250 years old, and some we've only just collected this year. So far, I've personally described 8 species or subspecies new to science, and there's 3 more on the way in another paper coming out this year. Here's just one of them, a small forget-me-not from the South Island of New Zealand, which I named Myosotis bryonoma. I'm really proud of the small but important contributions I'm making to science at the local and global levels by adding to our knowledge about the world's plant biodiversity. And it all started in Dodgeville. Which reminds me, I wanted to tell you about my best friend in high school, who also happens to be your amazing science teacher, Ms. Carrie Rowe Wasley. We both grew up on dairy farms, went to St. Joe's together, played 3 sports together at DHS, were in Spanish club and Save the Rainforest together, were valedictorian and salutatorian. From memory, we both had all A's, except Carrie got 1 B+. And we both went on to study science at university. We've also both been inducted subsequently into the DHS Athletics Hall of Fame. I'd like to personally thank Carrie and all the other teachers at DHS, past and present, for their commitment to you, the students, for being there day after day, year after year, and mentoring, encouraging, and inspiring you. In my mind, Carrie's accomplishments are just as important as mine. So I challenge all of you current students to learn all you possibly can from Ms. Rowe-Mosley and all your other teachers. If you do, you never know where you might end up. Maybe a place like New Zealand. This is a recent photo of my family. I'd like to thank them for their support of me and my plant passion, especially my husband, Mauricio. I met him in Chile when I was a 19-year-old university student, and now we've been married for 24 years. If we lived in Dodgeville instead of New Zealand, our two teenagers, Clemente and Luna, would be attending Dodgeville High School alongside their cousins, Charlie and Reese Mike, and they'd be sitting where you are right now. So, what words of wisdom do I have for them and for you? Number one, be your unique, authentic self. Don't be afraid to be different, even if it goes against the flow. In high school, everyone tries to fit in and do what their friends are doing. But the most interesting people I have known are those who have had the self-confidence to be true to themselves and follow their own path. It's okay, and it's important that you be you. Number two, think more about others and the world around you and less about yourself. Find small ways of supporting other people in your life. Be a voice for others. Be a voice for your community. And yes, be a voice for nature and for native plants too. Whatever you do, work hard and do everything to the best of your ability, especially if no one is looking. And number four, be curious. Ask questions, read, listen, take some risks, make mistakes, and never stop learning. Whether you're a teenager like you, in your 40s like me, or in your 70s like my parents. Finally, be grateful. I am extremely grateful for all the opportunities and teachers I had at DHS, all the life experiences I've had, and all the people who have walked alongside me along the way, all of which have shaped me, my career, and the way I live my life. So thank you very, very much to Dodgeville High School, to my teachers, especially Bruce Calhoun and Kathy Warpinski, who are attending this ceremony today, my parents, my mom and dad, my coaches, my extended family, including my aunt and uncle, Brad and Cindy Klusendorf, who are also attending today, my colleagues, those who nominated and selected me for this award. It's a tremendous honor for me to receive it. And thank you to all of you listening today, especially also your principal, Ryan Bonsack, who is so supportive in helping me attend this ceremony virtually. Muchas gracias, vielen Dank, tena koutou katoa.
Congratulations again to Heidi Might. She will be joining us after this ceremony for a tour of the building and meeting with staff after school. At this time, if we could have Carter Johnston come up and introduce our next inductee.
Hello, my name is Carter Johnston, and I am a freshman here at Dodgeville High School. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you, from the class of 1997, Lieutenant Colonel Craig Janssen of the Wisconsin National Guard. After graduating from Dodgeville High School, Mr. Janssen earned a Bachelor of Science degree from UW-Eau Claire and a master's degree from UW-Milwaukee in criminal justice. While enrolled at Eau Claire, he joined the Army National Guard and began a very distinguished career in the United States military. Highlights in his career include earning 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, and 2 Army Commendation Medals. Craig also earned a Ranger Tab, one of the most difficult military achievements to accomplish. Craig has led a 140-soldier unit from Wisconsin into a combat zone in Iraq, as well as being part of Task Force Badger, which was sent to Washington, D.C. for President Biden's inauguration. Recently, he was given command of the 732nd Combat Sustainment Support Battalion in Toma, a battalion that is 700 strong. Craig currently resides in Nashotah, Wisconsin, with his wife Amy and their 3 children, Jack, Charlie, and Dizzy. Please join me in welcoming 2022 Distinguished Alumni inductee, Mr. Craig Janssen.
Good afternoon. I'm glad that Heidi has all the science and language taken care of because I won't be talking about that. Last time I remember being in the front of the student body here at Dodgeville High School, it was my senior year when we had a hypnotist here. And he hypnotized me and he had me singing a country song by a guy named John Michael Montgomery. I think the song was called Sold. Have any of you heard of that guy before? All right, hey, teachers, help me out. All right. When I was picturing myself giving the speech, I was imagining being on the old gym with the bleachers pulled out and all you guys sit on the bleachers. Your school is phenomenal. I was able to have the tour this morning. And I can't fathom how great your facility is here. So be very happy that you guys have state-of-the-art equipment and gyms and this auditorium. It's just wonderful. All right, back to me singing John Michael Montgomery. I did want to make a comment. I was thankful that we didn't have cell phones and social media back in the 90s, because otherwise that'd be here to haunt me for years to come. Okay, my name is Craig Janssen. I graduated in 1997, 25 years ago. Wow, that's a long time ago. I guess this whole Distinguished Alumni event is here to remind me how old I really am. So I'd like to personally thank Mr. Bonsack and the rest of the committee for bringing that fact to my attention. I have 3 kids with me here today. Jack, who is 10. Stand up like I told you. All right, that's Jack. All right. We had Charlie. Stand up, honey. She's 7. And a little busy is 5. Stand up, honey. All right. My wife, Amy, actually grew up in Ridgeway, and she attended Dodgeville High School as well. She graduated a year behind me. You know, it's a small world. We did not date in high school. 10 years later, we ended up connecting out of nowhere, and here we are today. So you never know. You might be sitting next to somebody 10 years from now. You don't know what might be going on. So be nice. Amy couldn't be here today. She's a nurse, and she couldn't get out of her shift today, so she couldn't make it with us today. My mom and dad still live here in Dodgeville. They live on the main drag. They live next to the house they used to always say Rex Rabbits for sale. I don't know if you guys are too young. Has anybody ever seen that sign? Rex Rabbits for sale? Maybe some teachers have, but my parents still live in town. My sister and her husband, Dave, live over in Linden. And actually my cousin, Matt, is a technology guy here in the district. And I'm pretty sure his son, Jonathan, is here somewhere. So he's my second cousin. So I definitely still have roots in the Dodgeville area. I currently live over in Delafield. It's a college called Nashotah. And as mentioned earlier, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. And I work at the state headquarters in Madison. I'm what's called active guard. So there's about 500 soldiers in Wisconsin that are active duty. And that's what I currently do right now. So first of all, I'm honored to be here today. When I was notified that I was selected to be a distinguished alumni, I was immediately uncomfortable and went into the why me mode. I'm no different than anyone else that has worn this uniform today or has in the past. And those that serve, like myself, definitely do not look for recognition. But again, I'm very honored. I'm a consummate procrastinator. So for my first hint of advice, don't be me when it comes to procrastinating. Anyways, I did take the day off yesterday from work so I could figure out what the heck I was going to say today. And then after mowing the grass, spreading 8 yards of mulch around the yard, coaching Jack's baseball team, I finally sat down at 9 o'clock last night to try to prepare this speech. So don't do that. Learn at this age. It does not get any easier. I don't know why. I like to throw a little wait till last second when it comes to this type of stuff. But it's painful at times. But frankly, it was hard to focus after hearing about the tragedy down in Texas and seeing each update get worse and worse as the night progressed. I'm an Army guy that has been to Iraq twice, and with so much chaos happening stateside, it's just horrible that I can't do anything myself to help combat it. It is paralyzing. I have 3 elementary school kids sitting right here, and it's sickening to think about. Now, 10 years ago, you guys were in elementary school when Sandy Hook happened. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to be a child to have such tragedy happen. Now, 10 years ago, I'm sure your teachers and parents probably shielded you from that tragedy. But in today's world, we've got to be cognizant of what's going on. We can't keep our head in the clouds when it comes to these type of tragedies. So we need to teach our youth, including you out here, to remain vigilant and to be always aware of your surroundings. If something doesn't seem right, you need to say something. Always maintain your situational awareness. And what I mean by that is you enter this auditorium, you sit down, you should know where the exits are. So if something were to happen, you know what to do. Those types of things are called situational awareness. In the military, we always have to be aware of what's going on so we can react if something were to happen. And again, don't be scared to say something if something doesn't just quite add up. Lastly, keep the children and the families who robbed elementary school in your prayers. Okay, so I had to say that, but let's shift back to why I'm actually standing up here to talk today. You don't realize it now, and won't for several more years, but the experiences from your academics, sports, extracurriculars, your social experiences, and your friends that you have during your tenure here at Downhill High School will shape and mold you into the person you will become after you graduate and move on to the next chapters of your life. Most of you will leave mommy and daddy behind and go to college or into the workforce. The rest of you will eventually move out of your basement and start paying rent to get your own place. Then you'll come to the harsh realization that food actually costs money. It's not free like it is at mom and dad's house. Car insurance costs money, and eventually you'll have to get your own health care. But eventually, in the end, you'll be completely independent. So when I think back to 1997, I know I took the education I received here for granted. I went to UW Eau Claire after graduation and found the transition to college to be pretty seamless. Outside of the 2.0 GPA I got my first semester. And I realized really quickly that you actually had to study outside of class. So I rebounded, fixed that up, and had no problems in school. But I never reflected on why I had an easy transition to college at Eau Claire. And it's because of the work that I did in this building. It's because of the hard work that my teachers and your teachers put into doing their jobs. I had to stumble through helping my kids learn virtually through this whole COVID mess. Wow, not for me. No. All educators deserve so much credit. So right now, I'd like you please give a round of applause to your educators in this building. You might not appreciate it now, but you'll appreciate it sooner than later what your teachers are doing for you right now. So I spent 3 to 4 years supervising and recruiting for the Wisconsin Army National Guard in the Madison and Milwaukee area. Milwaukee Public Schools, or MPS, which we call it, was the largest student population for my recruiters. I once met a high school senior from MPS, one of the schools at MPS. He had a GPA over 3.5, and he was accepted to attend UW at Stevens Point. I happened to be at the office when he received his results from the Army entrance exam called the ASVAB. Anybody take the ASVAB before? A couple? Well, he failed. We had a high school senior with a GPA of 3.5 that couldn't even squeak into the Army that attended a huge school district in Milwaukee Public School. That high school senior for MPS was not set up for success at the next level or even at its current level. DHS set me up for success at it as it is currently setting you up for success, whether you know it or not. Who took the test again? Was it hard? Exactly, it wasn't hard. So don't take for granted what you're learning here. You could be in a different situation in a big city, in a crappy school district, thinking that you're going to succeed, and you get to college and you're not going to, there's no way that kid could have made it through his first semester of school. Reflecting back to how DHS impacted my life, what I found to be even more important than academics is why I mentioned that I'm glad Heidi talked about science and languages and grades were the experiences I mentioned earlier that helped build my character. Can someone tell me what character means to them? I'm assuming teachers is when you point the first person that looked away. Is that what you guys do? I'll spare you all. The definition I have here is the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. I guess I would also group personality, nature, and disposition to go along with character. I could stand here before you today and tell you that I'm a high character individual. I don't know if it's from growing up in a small town in the Midwest, my parents' values growing up, or having Mr. Jeff Bradley coach me in baseball and basketball for a number of years growing up, and then attempting to teach me advanced math in one of his first couple of years of teaching here. I stink at math. That was horrible. And now I have a fourth grader that they do math differently now. And he asked me to help, and I can't even show him how to add because they do it differently. So, Jeff, I might have to give you a call. Another coach that directly impacted my character was my football coach, Bob Metcalf. He wouldn't let me get away with not busting my butt on every play. Other key traits I learned from my high school experiences: work hard, never quit, have empathy, don't be scared to try something new, be confident in yourself, get along with others, treat others like you want to be treated, be nice, have a sense of humor, value relationships, take chances, and don't sweat the small stuff. It is very ironic, but most of these traits are being taught right now to my daughter, Busy, who is in the 4K. Many of us forget or choose not to use many of these traits as we progress through our teen years and enter adulthood. The bottom line, don't be a jerk. It is so simple, and yet so many out there fail at it every single day. All right, I want to talk a little bit about how I left DHS, went to UW Eau Claire, and now how I ended up wearing this uniform for the past 23 years. First of all, I want to say that when I was in high school, I had zero interest in the military. I don't know if recruiters come in and talk to you guys, but I would not approach one because I had no interest. I went on to college to study criminal justice. We had any seniors going to be criminal justice majors? You're a bunch of science folks. Good. That's better. Well, I wanted to join the FBI. And last night, as I was sitting here thinking, why did I choose that major? And then I started thinking, what movie did I watch back in the 90s that propelled me into that? And I thought of the movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. So I Googled it, and sure enough, it came out in 95, right about the time where I finally decided I want to be a criminal justice major, join the FBI. I really hope I had more thought into it than that, but that's all I can think of right now. So during my sophomore year of college, I took a serious look at joining the Army National Guard as a resume builder to set myself apart from my peers in the criminal justice department. I jumped right in and joined on May 6, 1999. I took that fall semester off and I went to basic and my advanced individual training at Fort Leonard, Missouri. I took matters in my own hands and was firmly on my path to joining the FBI. Now, what usually happens after something positive like this, or at least when an Army guy stands before you about joining the FBI, when obviously I did join the FBI because I'm in my Army uniform, my first major obstacle that I came across in my life. I turned 21 on March 2nd, 2000, and within a week or so, I screwed up and I got a DUI, the driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated. Brilliant, right? You have a criminal justice major here who is looking to get into the FBI that has a big DUI on his record. Not good. A new grad with a recent DUI on his record would be lucky to get a job at the UW Eau Claire Campus Police Department. No offense to any law enforcement officers out there. Now my head is spinning. What do I do now? Do I have to change majors? Do I continue on the same path? How do I right this wrong of making such a stupid mistake? Now, to prove that I wasn't a bad apple and that I was worthy of having a bright future, I decided to enter the Army's Officer Candidate Program, also called OCS at Fort McCoy. You needed 90 credits to start, and if you made it through the 18-month program, upon graduation from college, you'd be a newly commissioned second lieutenant. So in 2002, I graduated from UW Eau Claire, and I became a second lieutenant. So this put the DUI further in my rearview mirror, yet it was still looming, but didn't hurt quite as bad. And plus, time heals all wounds, as long as you don't make the same mistake twice. So when I was during OCS, 9/11 happened, and I came to the realization that I'd soon be leading troops in combat. This was the other curveball that ultimately set me on a different path. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia to attend infantry officer basic course. And while in Georgia, I learned that my unit, the 10128 Infantry up out of Eau Claire, had received this notification to deploy the following year, 2004. At that time, I was given the opportunity to attend the Army's most demanding leadership school called Ranger School. Ranger School is a 62-day small unit tactics and leadership course. Less than 1% of the Army attends the course, and those that do attend, approximately 40% will pass. The purpose of the course is learning to soldier as a combat leader while enduring the great mental and psychological stresses and physical fatigue of combat. Ranger students conduct an average of 20 hours of training per day, while consuming about 2,200 calories per day and getting an average of 3 to 3.5 hours of sleep per night, all while lugging around 90-pound rucksacks. The course is divided into 3 phases. Benning phase is at Fort Benning, Georgia. The mountaineering phase is up in the northern Georgia and Dahlonega, Georgia. And the swamp phase is down at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. During Ranger School, you're assigned leadership positions during each phase and need to acquire a passing grade while serving in that position. Essentially, a Ranger instructor, or we call them RIs, follows you around and critiques every move that you make while you're doing combat patrols in the woods, mountains, and the swamps. I went through the Benning phase with no problems, which culminated with a 12-mile road march, and then you essentially went up to Dahlonega after that. I didn't have any problems at Dahlonega either, doing the mountaineering portion either. I'm not a Boy Scout, so we had like about 20 knots you had to tie within 3 seconds per, and I was kind of sweating that, but got through the knot time, got through the mountaineering, and I made it to Florida. Well, Florida is when I started having some problems. I failed my first patrol, and you usually get 1 or 2, maybe 3 patrols if you're lucky. So I failed the first patrol, got my second shot, no go in the second shot. So on the last day, those of us that didn't pass got another chance at being in a leadership position. We actually were doing like a raid on a little island off of the coast of Fort Walton Beach. You got to get those black Zodiac boats, and you're assaulting this little island. Well, I failed that one too. So now I was a recycle. So recycling meant that you either were kicked out or you had to start over. Some people had to start right at the beginning. Some people would just restart that certain phase. Well, I was able to restart that Florida phase if I could get permission from Wisconsin to stay. So I had to call my commander with my tail between my legs and say, "Hey, sir, I failed Florida phase. Can you leave me down here? I want to get this other shot." And luckily he let me stay. And so then I had to wait another 30, 40 days. I completed the Florida phase of the next class, and then I graduated from Ranger School. But that was my first taste of failure in the military. Now, but what is better? Not trying in the first place and not failing, or giving something a shot and finding failure? So I would always recommend going for it, and you'll never know what you can achieve if you don't. So some of my classmates that chose not to continue, they just decided to go home because most of us were skin and bones by that time. And I mentioned there's no showers and no bathrooms, so it was a miserable place to be. But the satisfaction of completing that Florida phase, has always stuck with me, and I've been able to wear the Ranger tab ever since. So I left for Iraq 2 weeks later, and led a 40-man infantry platoon in the Diyala province, which is northeast of Baghdad. Some great experiences over there. It was the Wild West back in that time. I happened to be there in 2005 during Iraq's first ever free election. I was sold into this war. I really thought that we were doing good things. I was looking at, I've got kids now. I was looking at the kids that were there at that point, and we were making a difference for them to be able to make their own decisions once they became adults. Well, we all see all that happen, and I'll follow the wayside. But I still wouldn't trade my deployments to Iraq, because I still think we were making a difference. After that deployment, I came back, and I just went back to grad school, UW Milwaukee. I stuck with criminal justice. I figured, why not? We'll stick with it. So I was still in the CJ train. After getting my master's, my next employment was coming up, and it was going to be, so I decided to start doing Army full time. So that's kind of when I made the change I never ever did apply for a law enforcement job. I started wearing the uniform every day. I deployed in 2009 as a company commander, and I led 140 soldiers over to southern Iraq. And I've been doing it full time ever since. I absolutely love it. I currently, as mentioned earlier, I'm currently the battalion commander for a battalion of 700 soldiers spread between Toma, Sparta, Black River Falls, Oshkosh, and Beloit. I'm also the state training officer for the state. The Army has been great to me. I've seen a lot of cool things I never would have had the opportunity to see without. Just in the past year plus, I was in Racine during the riots. I was in DC during the inauguration, and I happened to be over in Poland in February when the Russian invasion happened to Ukraine. I had a unit over there, so I made a tour between Poland, Romania, and Lithuania. It's just this interesting time to be over there when the Russian invasion happened. You just never know what will be next. So I know I've been talking for a bit here. Thanks for hanging in with me. I got two more things. I will end with these two things. Have a plan on what you want to do when you grow up, but don't freak out when it doesn't necessarily go to plan. Resiliency is a key to negotiating the roadblocks you'll stumble upon in both your personal and work lives. Again, don't sweat the small stuff. We've got too many teenagers and young adults that sweat the small stuff. The commander of the Wisconsin Army National Guard, Brigadier General Strub, wants our soldiers to focus on 3 pillars of fitness. Physical fitness, exercise and diet. Mental fitness, taking care of your emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And your moral fitness, doing what's right when no one is watching. Too often we only talk about physical fitness and avoid talking about mental fitness altogether. This needs to change. Mental fitness is where we are most vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask for help or talk to others about your mental health. Good luck to your seniors out there. I'm excited for you to be in your next chapter. Thank you very much. Does anybody want to join the Wisconsin National Guard?
So we'd like to present Mr. Jansen with some tokens of our appreciation. So first of all, we have this beautiful plaque. Not only will he be recognized on our Distinguished Alumni display in the back hallway, we have this made for our candidates as well, so we can put this up in his office as a reminder of this moment. We also have some cool Dodger threads here for him, and a Dodgeville Alumni coffee mug.
Thank you all for joining us here today, and it truly is another great day to be a Dodger. Students, I will be dismissing you to your 4th hour classes. Thank you all. Staff, you need to join them.